Thanks for stopping by at Twisted Art Designs. It's time to do the first layout in series number 2 of the Julie Nutting Paper Doll Altered Book series. So this is where we're going to start, and I'm going to show you how I create this fun layout and how it is interactive. So let's get started and have some fun on our second Julie Nutting book. So as I suggested, you should find an older book that is string bound. The signatures are sewn in by strings. The pages are not glued into the book, and the pages should be not smooth, so don't get anything with a glossy finish. So to remove some pages, if you look down in this little gutter here and you look for the strings, you kind of have to turn the pages and look for the strings. Let's see if you can see. See those strings? So those are the best places to remove pages. If you grab 2 pages together, you can see at the top, those 2 pages are part of the middle part of that signature. And if you carefully pull them, look how easy it is to remove pages from your book without causing any disturbance in your gutter. You don't have those torn edges that you have to deal with that make it kind of lumpy, and so you can still see those strings. So if I wanted to remove another set, I would do the same thing. Grab these 2 pages on opposite sides of the string and gently pull. And there's your signature pages. So this is an image in the Julie Nutting coloring book, and someone gifted this to me. It is on really nice watercolor paper. So what I'm doing, I picked this image. I love this saying, and I'm using watercolors to just watercolor paint the image. In this background here inside the saying, I'm using a Neocolor 2. This is Sahara Yellow, and I'm using it by just tipping it with a water brush, tipping off the crayon and then blending it out just to add some pretty background to that. I'm going to do something really fun with the girl, and I'm going to trim out the whole image, and I have some ideas for adding this to a page in our altered book. For the dress, I want to layer some papers. We've done this before. So I've shown this previously, but in case you're just new to learning about these Julie Nutting paper dolls, then this might be new to some people. But I usually use tracing paper. I'm going to just use a regular piece of copy paper because you can see really well through this image. If you put it over the girl, you can see her dress. And what I want to do is just use a pencil to trace these pieces, because what we're going to do is cut those little pieces out, and then that'll become a template for cutting out the pattern paper that I'm going to use to layer this dress. So this just gives you a template to use. Tracing out those pieces. I think I'm going to do the top of her dress too. Her little sleeves and the top part of her dress. So this is what you end up with, and now I'm just going to cut all those pieces apart. Now I'm just going to use these little pieces and use them as templates to trace onto my pieces of pattern paper, and then cut those out to layer to make her dress. And now I can just glue those pieces into place. I'm using art glitter glue. I think it'll be easier to put the glue on the page rather than the tiny little piece. Art glitter glue's got a nice fine tip and make it easy to put the pieces in place. And I'm starting from the outside in layering, because I am going to pop up these 3 in the middle to really give it some shape to it. But that's what I'm going to do, is glue them into place. So to make the parts stand up or be a little bit more dimensional, what I like to do, let me zoom in here, is on this piece I'm going to put art glitter glued around the edges, on the outside edges of where the piece is going to go. Just the outside edges, like that. And then I'm going to take my piece of paper, and I'm going to take a pop dot. This is just a little square pop dot, and I'm going to cut it in half, so I just get a little piece of one, and peel the backing. And I'm going to put that right here down at the bottom. in the center, just like that. And I'm going to take my piece of paper and I'm going to put it in place, starting up at the top, and let it just fall into place on top of that pop dot. But then I'm going to take my fingers and hold this down on the sides where I put that glue along the edges. And art glitter glue grabs pretty quickly, so it shouldn't take too long to attach itself. And then what you end up with is dimensional little pieces. So for this big piece for the center, what I'm going to do is just put it over my pen, and I'm just going to give it a little curve to it. So this is just kind of paper shaping. Shape it so you get a little arch to it. That kind of helps. And then I'm going to put my glue down around this edge. I did use a little bit of pen around it in blue just in case the paper, white paper underneath shows. I don't want that to show. Put my pop dot in the middle. And same thing. I'm going to start at the top, add the paper, and then hold those sides down and have them glue into place. So her skirt is nice and layered. It looks better in person. It looks more layered in person than on camera, but it's really cute. It's got a lot of layers to it. So that is how to layer and make the dress of your doll look dimensional. Although I haven't finished painting this yet, I'll work on that some more. I'm still going to go ahead and cut it out. When I cut this out, those little parts of the hair underneath, I'm going to cut those off because the idea I have, those won't be needed. So I'm going to leave the top part of the hair on, and I'm going to cut out this silhouette, cutting off those little curls at the bottom, but I'm leaving this all one piece, trimming it out. These little parts under the arms, I'll trim on a self-healing mat with an X-Acto knife to cut them out. Same with the little part between her feet, and just trim out the whole thing. And then I've got some really fun ideas for this. And I'm going to show you a super fun idea for the hair. So I've got this cut out and ready to go on my page. I do need to finish coloring it. But what I'm going to do around this cute little scalloped edge, I've got a little tiny punch. This is from Family Treasures, and it's probably, oh gosh, 15 years old. But you can buy these little itty bitty tiny punches. And I'm going to just turn it upside down, and in the middle of each one of these little scallops, I'm going to punch out a little dot like that, and that's just going to make it look a little bit more lacy around that edge. And to try and get them centered instead of just eyeballing it, I'm just taking a little pen in blue, and I'm making a little blue dot in the center of each little scallop. That way, when I turn this upside down and I line it up, I can see when I'm over the little blue dot. And that's the place I want to punch it. And then it makes it nice and centered. So this is how that turned out. I love it. I love the little dots all the way around. It made it look lacy. And this is what it looks like, all trimmed out and ready to be put into the book. And we're going to do something fun with the hair. We're going to do something fun with this part. I think I'm going to do the same thing on the lace around her dress, only I'm going to use a paper piercer because it's much tinier. So what I'm going to do is just use my self-healing mat and put this down and take my paper piercer and pierce a hole in each little scallop of her skirt, her lace on her skirt, and then lift it up and poke it through. I suppose you could even use a paper piercer around these as well if you don't have one of those little punches. And see what that does? It just makes that lace around her skirt more lace-like. I took an alcohol marker and I just colored her hair in a light brown. And now I'm taking two different colors of embroidery floss, one in a tan and one in a brown. And what I'm going to do, I have a really fun idea. So I'm going to cut, let's see, probably 3 pieces of the brown, of the darker brown, and 2 pieces of tan. And now I'm going to take a darning needle with a big eye, and I'm going to feed through those pieces of embroidery floss all onto the needle like this. Okay, so they're all threaded through that big eye. What I want to do is to just kind of pull that needle down and find a sort of center like that. So you can see I've mixed the strands. And now what I want to do is I'm going to poke them through right at the top of her bangs. I'm going to poke a hole with that needle like that. And I'm going to pull these through to the back carefully. Try not to rip the paper. Just work it through. And if I rip it, it's okay because I'm going to put some tape back there anyway. Okay, so I've got that pulled through like that. And now I'm just going to cut that off. Cut the needle off, leaving those strands in the back. And then I'm going to push them down and fan them out. And I'm going to put some glue behind them and glue them into place. And I put a clamp back there, and I'm going to totally let that dry. Okay, so now that that's dry, I'm going to carefully take my clip off, and it anchored those in place. I'm going to fold these back like this. Then I'm going to take my art glitter glue, and I'm going to go around these bangs from that center point out, and not all the way to the tips because I want those to stay loose. And I'm going to just put some glue down. I want those edges to be loose and free. And then what I'm going to do is to just take my tweezers and starting over here on this side, I'm just going to kind of carefully separate the strands and then just start laying them in place. So around where you've got that glue, just kind of put those little strands in place and then grab the next bunch. And put it down. And I'm going to just keep going around until all the little pieces are in place and just leaving them loose at the ends. So here's what it looks like with them glued down, and I kind of just held this down like this and swooped them over this way, and now I'm going to let that dry before I cut them and make her bangs. Now what I'm going to do is take my scissors, and you can see underneath where her bangs are. You can see the bang. Let me show you. Lift these up a little bit, just carefully. You can see the edges of the bangs. So what I want to do is to just take my scissors, slip them up underneath, and start trimming them. In the shape of her bangs. Like that. Now for the other part, what I want to do is from about the top of her head down to about her knee. That's what I want to measure for pieces. So here's one piece, and I'll use that to measure the rest. And I'm going to probably do, I think, 3, let's see. It's 6 pieces. So I'm going to do 4 pieces in the dark brown and 2 pieces in the lighter brown. And so they're all going to be the same length like that. And I'm going to cut the ones for the other side as well. So you want to make 6 for each side, whatever colors you want to use. And it could be a mix of colors. You could use 3 different colors of brown if you want it to be really varied. So it just, adding different colors makes the hair look more realistic and not so flat. So I'm going to cut 6 pieces the same length for each side. Okay, so I have 2 sets with 6 strands in each set. And what I want to do is, at the top, I'm going to hold them together like this, and I'm going to cut them nice and straight. So I want to trim them so they're really even. Let's see how they're super even. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some glue right here where the part is. I'm going to only put glue on the outside edge, not in here, and 1 dot of glue down here. So what I want to do first is to put these pieces together. And I've gotten them all uneven, so I'm going to trim them again. There we go. I let go. Okay, I'm going to put them all at the top in the part and kind of bunch them together. You actually should wait on this other part of the glue instead of putting it around her head. Let's just start right in the part first. And then I'm going to pinch that again with my clip to hold that into place and let that dry. Okay, so once that is glued into place, then I can add my glue. Got ahead of myself before. Add my glue around the outside edge and down right here, maybe a little in there. And then I'm going to just kind of hold my finger on that part so that it doesn't move, because you don't want to pull them. This is kind of a little tedious at first, but you just want to kind of put them in place, put the hair in place, and then the next place that we're going to clip is right there at the end of those bangs where we put the glue. Okay, and then we're going to let that dry. Now before I take off this clip, I added another clip over here to start that side. But before I take off this clip, what I'm going to do, since that's holding these pieces together, is I'm going to separate them into 3 strands. So if you did 6, then obviously you can do 2 and 2 and 2. Like that. And now I'm going to braid it. I love doing this in my journals. I've got some paper dolls that I did out of collage magazine images, and then I added embroidery floss braids. I just think it looks so cute. I love the little details. That's what makes these Julie Nutting dolls so fun, is to decorate them like this and make them really special. And add all the fun details. Okay, I want to get down here. I'm going to put a little glue just to hold that in place. I'm going to take this clip off and put that clip down there. And now same with this side. I'm going to put some glue down here and a dot right there where I want it to be held. I'm going to hold down on that part so I can just kind of get these into place without them popping off. And then I'm going to clip it. and let it dry. So I secured that one with some blue embroidery floss and tied a little bow. So here's what that looks like. Cute little braid. And then I'm going to do the same thing over here. Braid this side while the clip is still on. Separate my strands. And then braid it. So to braid, you're always taking the outside and putting it over into the center, and then you just do the same thing back and forth. And then I put a little bit of glue to secure it. And let it dry. So now I can take this clip off. And then what I like to do is just trim the ends of the braids just to make them look nicer. And look how cute that is. It's darling. That is so cute. It looks like real hair. So that's fun, and that is ready to go into my altered book. And before I add this to my book, what I'm going to do is take a ruler and a bone folder, and I'm going to go right down this left side, probably about right there. Trying to keep this as straight as I can. Doesn't have to be perfect, but I'm going to just take my bone folder and I'm going to just score along that oval. And then I'm going to move the ruler to the scored part. And carefully make a fold. And just slowly press that. So I've got a fold. Just like that. So now I have a fold area. And the girl is going to get completely glued into the book. And then it's going to get glued right up to this fold. But the fold part is, this whole part is going to be left loose. So now I've come to my book to find a place to put my layout, and I realized that this is just slightly too wide for my book. Not very, just the little flowers over here hang out. So I may trim them and pop them up and then put them right back with some pop-ups behind them just to make that dimensional. But this is going to be the spot for my girl, and then I'm going to put another girl over here. So it's time to do a background on my page. But first you need to make a set. I have a set over here. Behind this is the first layout that I'm working on, and it's going to end up being the second video in the series because I'm not quite ready to reveal it yet. So I kind of moved on to this just to get a video out to get everybody started on their Volume 2 book. So this is going to be the first video. This first layout will be the second video. So I need to put a set together. This is solid because that's already been created into a set. And so I'm going to take 2 or 3 pages on this side and put them together with Mod Podge to make a nice thick page to work on. I love how when you have to change something or you think it's a mistake or something like that, how it always turns out 10 times better than what you'd even expected. So those flowers that were sticking out off the edge, I cut off and I glued it down here with a pop-up behind it. So there's dimensional flowers up here. And then those long ones that were hanging off here, I put them here, and I glued down their little stems and put pop dots behind them. So now I've got dimensional flowers along that edge, and it looks even cuter. So I love it when you make a little change and it turns out even better than you thought it would. For the other side of the layout, I'm using another page out of that book, the watercolor coloring book for Julie Netting. I love this one, and I'm not going to use the Cute as the Button. What I'm going to do with this one is to color her and decorate her in the same manner. I'm going to do the same thing with her hair, only maybe make it blonde, but use embroidery floss. So I'm going to decorate her with some paper, just like I did the other one, embroidery floss for hair, do a satin ribbon or a silk ribbon bow on top of her head. And then I'm going to use my X-Acto knife and I'm going to trim out all around this background, leaving her and the outside, and use that Cute as a Button saying for something else. So I'm going to just take those pieces out and leave her in, and then it's going to go on the opposite side of this one. And I have a really good idea for how to tie them together. The color that I used on the background here, I'm going to use behind the flowers. I'm going to color in behind the flowers, so those two colors will coordinate. I'm going to use a black background behind this one with just some black paint, because there's a lot of black in here. I'm going to paint these flowers to go with these flowers here, so they kind of coordinate and go together. I think it's going to be just a really cute layout. So here's what my frame page looks like, all decorated and colored. I did the outside with Neocolors and watercolor paints. This is what I did to the girl. On this one, I only added embroidery floss to her bangs and gave her some fringy bangs. I think that looks really cute. I did a little silk ribbon bow on her head. I did, these are size 15 seed beads with a needle and thread. I made a little necklace. Her dress is made out of material, so I just did the same thing that I did over here. I put paper over it, traced the shape, and then cut out material in the little polka dot pattern here and for her pocket and her shoes. And that made her little outfit. And then I did the same thing with the paper piercer to make the skirt look lacy, have lacy underneath. So that's how she turned out. And the colors go together, so they coordinate with each other. And now I'm ready to move on and put them into the book. So the next thing I need to do is cut this to fit in the book. And I think what I want to do, I want to make sure that that circle is kind of centered on the page, because I have another fun idea to share with you. So I'm going to center the circle and then mark the edges of the pages and cut off the excess on the oval, the frame page. And I ended up with these two strips, which I think would even work great on this side. So I think I'm going to put those strips over here like that to match this side. So look at that. That worked out without even planning it. I love how that turned out. Really cute. So this is what it looks like where it fits onto the page. And now I just need to do my backgrounds for behind the two images. Next, I'm going to take some file folders and I'm going to use them with their tabs left, right, and center. What I'm going to do is to measure my frame piece. So I'm going to take my ruler and measure, and I want to go in about a half inch. Yeah, a half inch is perfect on both sides. So I'm going to measure in about a half inch. And then I measure a half inch over from here. So it's going to be about 5 3/4 inches wide. And then I'm going to measure from the top down to about a half inch in from the bottom on this part. And that measures to be about 7.5. So 7.5 by 5 3/4. So on my file folder, I'm not going to count the tab. I'm going to count this part here and go 7.5 inches down from that. Make a mark. That'll be the bottom. And then I'm going to go 5 3/4 in from the side and make a mark. Okay, so now I'm going to draw my lines. And then that first one that I make will be my template for the other two. And I'm going to cut that piece out. Okay, so see how that fits behind? The tab sits up above the frame, and when you flip it over, see how that fits nicely all the way around, and it gives me room to glue this frame down onto the page and then still be able to slip this behind. You probably get where I'm going with that. So now I'm going to take this and use it as a template now that I know that it fits right, and I'm going to cut out the piece with the center tab and the left tab so that they can layer behind each other. So here are my 3 pieces with the tabs left, center, and right. And now what I'm going to do is with these cute images that I found, I'm going to take these images and I'm going to glue one onto each piece. I may not use that one because it's got a border, and I'll show you why. Okay, so I want the piece to completely cover. Like, see, this piece has a border and it doesn't cover quite enough. I want to find images like this out of magazines or books that have a really nice scene in the back, and I love this one. It's got a really cute scene with a fountain. I do like the house over in the back too. So what I want to do is to just put this in place and glue this down, and I'm not going to cut it along the edges because then I think when you slide them in and out, those papers are going to come loose. I think it'd be better to do a wrapping paper wrap and wrap the edges around and glue them to the back side. That way they're going to stay in a nice, stay nice on the cards when you slide them in and out of the pocket. So I'm going to go ahead and glue an image onto each one of these, do the wraps, cut around the top edge. The top edge can be trimmed around, and then show you what it looks like. I'm using glue stick over the whole thing, and then I'm going to use art glitter glue around the edges just for a really extra good seal. Okay, so now I'm just going to push that down into place. I'm going to take my scissors and trim it, leaving about 1/2 inch to fold over. And then I'm going to trim this part out, but these parts are going to get folded in. And you can go from the corner like this and fold in like this. Let me zoom in a little bit. Fold your corners up first and over like that. And then put your glue along the edge. And then just fold this edge up. And I like to use clamps to hold things down that I've glued until it dries, just to hold them in place. Okay, so I'm going to clamp that and let those dry. So this is how it turned out. Here's my file folder with the cute little cabin scene, and then on the back side, doesn't matter because you're not going to see it. You could cover that if you want your page to be perfect. You could cover it with something, but not necessary. So when this is going to be glued down into the book, it's going to get glued down on 3 sides along the edge really, really well, and then I'm going to let it dry. And then what you're going to do is you're going to slip these into the pocket and look at the scene in the window behind her, and you're going to be able to change scenes because you'll have 3 different scenes to choose from. So that's the concept of what I'm going for here. And in the altered book, it's going to be so cute. So she's standing in front of a cute little cabin, a cute little cottage. And then you can pull this out, cover another one, and slip it in, and you're going to have a different scene. So I'm going to go ahead and finish the other 2 and come back and show you. Oh, these turned out so cute. So I've got my cute little cottage, with the door open with the little doggy inside, and then this pretty little koi fountain pond. And look how they look behind with her standing in front of them. Look at how cute is that. So I'll be able to pull them out and put another one in front. Look at that one. That's so cute with the little doggy up the walk. And then the cabin behind. And you wouldn't have to use, like, look at books in your thrift shop, because this was a book about Kincaid paintings, and I like to use them for things like making book tags and things. Even these little pieces that got cut off. This one's got a birdhouse and a branch and a little street light. That's perfect to make a bookmark tag to go into a junk journal. So I like to find those kind of books in your dollar racks at your thrift shops and your charity shops, and then use those for backgrounds and things like that. So you could use a magazine image, a book image, anything you want to make a cute background on your cards that are going to go in the pocket behind your window if you're following along and doing the window page like I'm showing here. Okay, so now it's time to put those into the book. Here's my set of pages that are glued together with Mod Podge and dried. So I've got my set on this side and on this side ready to put it in. I decided to go with painting black, a black background. That's going to make this really pop off on this side. And because this has black around the border, I think that doing the pages in black is going to be really cool. And then I'm going to use a stencil over it just to add a little touch of a pattern. So my first step is going to be just to paint these pages black with acrylic paint. I painted my pages, I put my plastic behind and painted my pages black, and I was going to use a stencil to make a pattern, but I think I'm going to just leave them plain black because they're going to look nice, and it's going to make the images that I'm putting down on the page really pop up. So I'm going to put this aside and let this dry. And then what I'm going to work on next is this piece here. So this, I've got an idea for this. So what I'm going to do is take about 3 sheets of printer paper. And this is kind of a little bit of a heavy-duty printer paper, but it doesn't have to be. And I'm going to fold each one in half, just like that, down the middle, this way. And then I'm going to put them together, and I'm going to take them to my sewing machine and sew down the center. Okay, so I sewed that down the middle, and now what I like to do is flip it over, and I always put a piece of washi tape on the back side. And that's just to keep your stitches straight, or keep them, give them some integrity, because it's going to get folded back and forth, and when you sew into paper, it's like perforating paper, and I don't want my pages to fall apart. And so that'll be on the back side, and it just gives it a little bit of stability. So now what I want to do is where I made took my bone folder and scored this oval, that oval score is going to go right down the edge, because this is going to be behind it. So what I want to do is take my pencil, and I'm going to mark, and I'm going to use those little dots that I made when I punched out those little circles around the scallops. I'm going to use those as little guides. That'll work out perfectly, making little dots. And this is just going to give me an idea for making my oval shape. So see the dots all the way around. And I don't think I'm going to cut this. I think what I want to do is tear it. Okay, so what I'm going to do is tear it, and when you tear it towards you, of course, you get that nice frayed edge. And I want to tear it and use those little dots as a guide, and I'm going to go just right inside those little pencil dots. So I'm going to just take the first page and carefully come in here and go and see how I'm tearing just inside of those dots. So it's going to end up making its little oval shape, but it'll be rough edge torn, and we love those rough edges. I'm going to tear it all the way around. Using those little pencil dots as my guide. Like that. So now I'm going to go ahead and tear all the pages, and there should be 6 pages since I used 3 pages folded. And at this edge back here, along the spine of the little book that you're making, you are going to have to use scissors. So I'm going to just take my scissors and cut right now like this and like this. So those will be my stopping points. And the other pages are much easier to tear out because if you just push down with your finger along that first page that you tore, let me show you, it gives you a nice guide. So look at how quickly you can easily tear out the next layers using that first one as your guide. Just like that. So what you end up with is your cute little ovals that are torn and jagged on the edge. And then I save all these types of scraps because these are great for stamping on. If you rubber stamp images and you need a little piece of white paper to stamp on, these edges are perfect for that. So never waste your paper. Put it in your bin for white paper and use it for stamping later. So this is what I've ended up with. Here's my little book and all the pages. I love that the layered edges show one behind the next. I love that. It looks really cool. And it gave me 6 nice little pages that are going to go behind this oval just like this when I glue it into place. So I decided to use my little mini distress inks. This is Mowed Lawn, Crushed Olive, Pine Needles, and Bundled Sage. And I'm going to do them in different colors. I think that would be kind of neat and make it look even more layered. So I'm going to just take each page and a little soft brush and go around those edges and rub that ink in. And I'm going to go up into the page a little bit too, so it's not so white. Oh yeah, that looks really pretty. And I think having the different colors of green, the layers will all show one on top of each other, and that's going to look really, really fun. So for the next page, I'll use a different color. And I'll try some pine needle. Where you've torn picks up that ink really nice, and you get the multicolors of your ink for where it sinks into the torn edges. I love torn edges. That looks nice. And then you can also pick up your ink pad and just go and tip around those edges, and that makes an even darker layer just on the very tippy tips of those edges. I love how that looks too. So kind of just play around with it, and when it's layered, look what it looks like with the different colors. I love that. So I'm going to play around and get these all colored and distressed and ready to go for putting it on the page. So here is what the black pages look like. I like it a lot because it does make this really pop off the page. And look how cute that book turned out with the different colors of green ink, each page a different color. And then when they lay over the top of each other, you've got this really pretty edge, and you put that over the book over it, and it goes behind those flowers. That just worked out really nice. And then these pieces that came off of this edge are going to go down here as border. So I'm going to glue them down. I'm going to glue all these into place. When this gets glued into place, it's only going to be glued around the edge and just around the bottom and the two sides, and then put into place here, because of course that's going to be the pocket. So this is what this looks like with the borders across, and then she's glued in. The back page of the book is glued in, and then the cover is glued to the cover there. I'm being careful with it because it's still, the glue's still wet, but that's what that looks like. I've glued this down and clipped it into place. It's glued down on these three sides, and you have to be careful not to put this too far over into the gutter of your book, because then your page won't close. So make sure you go over a little bit to the left of it. And for this little book to hold it closed, I have this cute heart paper clip. I think that'll be really a fun thing to clip that book closed, because simple acts of kindness are acts of love. So what I'm going to do is just put this little heart clip on here to hold my little book closed like that. That's really cute. And then I'm going to let this totally dry before I try putting my cards in, because you don't want it to lift up off the page. So the last thing I want to do with my cards is to add some ribbons to the top. I'm using this punch. I love this hand punch that punches a slat that's perfect for ribbons. So I'm going to just unlock that, and across each tab I'm going to put 3 slats, and I'm going to mark them with pencil so that I can't evenly do them. So kind of guessing center and right and left. And then I'm going to just make a punch on each one of those. And I'm using ribbons and tulle and fibers, just like that. I've made ribbons and fibers and tulle pieces. You're going to need 9 because there's 3 cards. And then just fold your piece in half, feed it through the little slat. This slat works so nicely for ribbons. And then feed your tails through the loop and pull. And then I always like to cut them into angles like that and like that. So I've got a cute little tag. So I'm going to go ahead and put fibers and ribbons all the way across the 3 cards. So here's what it looks like with all the ribbons, and I used some tulle and some fibers and lace to make my little ribbon ties. And I think what I also might do is make them snug, turn them over, and put a little drop of glue and let it dry, just to really anchor them in, just for safekeeping. But so there's what they look like, and when they're stacked one up next to each other, look how pretty that makes this top edge. So here's how the layout turned out. Here are my tags stuck in the pocket with their cute little ribbon edges at the top, and then the scene shows in the circle on this side. On this side you have a little book that you can take this off, and this gives you a place to write things like, I thought this would be a great spot to write random acts of kindness that I've done for other people, and random acts of kindness that people have done for me. So that'll be a really great thing to me for journaling. In this little journal book back here are random acts of kindness. And I hope that you've enjoyed this. This has been a really fun little layout. And then this, you can pull out your cards and change your scene in the pocket. I did add some paint pen and added a little grass down here. I just think this layout just looks so cute, and it's so fun to have the little interactive scenes and then the book behind that image. So thanks for stopping by. This was our first layout in the second Julie Nutting Paper Doll Altered book. There's a series 1 if you want to see those videos, and this is starting our second book. There will be a list in the description box below with some links for the products that I've used for creating this layout if you're interested in those products, finding those products. So until next time, go make art in your Julie Netting Paper Doll Altered book, because art soothes the heart. Thanks for stopping by.